Good morning, everybody, and I would like first to thank the organizer for inviting me to speak into this sport science session. And my role this morning is a bit different. I'm not going to talk about a hamstring of injury, but I'm going to talk about a specific case about playing football in the heat, playing football in hot ambient conditions. And to do so, I will use a very recent example of the FIFA World Cup in 2014 in Brazil, and how we can use the lesson from the previous World Cup in order to prepare the upcoming Olympics in August 2016 in Rio. So one interesting fact that happened during the World Cup in 2014 in Brazil is that one of the games had to be stopped after 30 minutes during each of the half to allow for cooling and hydration of the player. And this was not the first time that such event happened. The same thing happened, for example, during the final of the 2008 Olympic in Beijing, where the game was also stopped after 30 minutes to allow for hydration and cooling of the player. And this decision was based on the environmental condition reaching a wet bulb globe temperature of 32 Celsius degrees. The WBGT is an index that takes into account the temperature, the humidity, and the radiation of the sun. And this is the index that is used by most of the federations, the FIFA obviously, but this is also used, for example, by the ITF or the WTA. And when we look at what happened during the World Cup at different levels of heat stress, so what you can see here, for example, is in white the low heat stress, in gray the moderate heat stress, and in black the high heat stress. And we can see actually that the level of heat stress did not modify the actual playing time, the distance covered, or the number of goals per match. However, when we look a bit more into detail about what happened during the match itself, we can see that even if the same total distance was covered, it was covered in a different way. When the environment is getting warmer, you can see an increase in the low-intensity activity and a decrease in the high-intensity activity. So there is a slowing down of the game. However, you can see that the players are still able to sprint with the same speed in a game in the heat. I hope it's better like that. So the player can still sprint with the same speed, whatever the temperature, the environmental temperature of the game. And it was even an increase in the pass accuracy, in the rate of successful passes when playing in the heat. So heat has some effect, but it's not only negative effect, there is also some positive effect. So if we try to summarize what we learned during the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, it seems that playing in the heat will not alter the specificity of the game. So you will still get the same actual playing time, the same number of goals, the same number of cards, red or yellow card, and the same number of passes. But it will slightly modify the pattern of the game. So you will get less high intensity running and a better rate of successful passes. So this is probably the first take-home message if some of you are working with team and are working with coaches. If you plan to play an event in the heat, do not have a game strategy based on your player running a lot, because anyway, they will be running slower. So have a game strategy based on a lot of passes, because this one will be more accurate. So the strength of this kind of observation is obviously that it's done at the highest level. During the World Cup itself, it's done with 32 teams during 64 matches. However, when you work at this level, you have also a poor level of control of what is going on the pitch. So each of the game was done with a different opponent and with a different game tactic, depending on the ongoing score or depending on the team to be already qualified or no for the next round. So what we do, we also did experimental game where we asked two teams from Denmark and from the Faroe Islands to play a game in hot ambient condition on the Aspire pitch in the middle of the day at noon under the sun by an environmental temperature of 43 degrees, and another game inside Aspire Dome with AC by a temperature of 21 degrees. So obviously, when playing in the heat, the player reach a higher core temperature, average close to 40, with some player reaching 41, and higher muscle temperature, average of 40, with some player reaching 42. And what we observe here is that in this control condition, the message is roughly the same than during the World Cup. So we have a decrease in the total distance covered during the game that is mainly due to a decrease in a high-intensity activity, 7% decrease in total distance due to a 26% decrease in high-intensity activity. But number of sprint, distance per sprint remain the same. We also observe, again, an increase in the rate of successful crosses and passes, and as well as an increase even in the sprint speed, in the speed reached during the sprint. But when we talk about preparing the next Olympic, we do not talk about a single game. We talk about a series of games, and every tournament will include a series of games. So we also have been looking at the recovery capacity of the player. So when we look at different physical capacity of the player, such as a repeated sprint ability, the maximal force, or an incremental yo-yo test, we can see that irrespectively of playing in a cool or in a hot ambient condition, there is an effect of fatigue due to the game, followed by a recovery in 24 or 48 hours. But this effect of fatigue and this recovery is the same after playing in the heat or after playing in a temperate environment. And if any difference is even in favor of playing in the heat. So you can see here that the recovery was even slightly better after playing in the heat, the gray bar, than after playing in temperate, probably because the player ran less at high intensity, so it was a lower level of fatigue and an easier recovery. And this is confirmed by various biochemical measures. So for example, you can see here, and you might recognize on this picture actually Andreas, who presented just before me and who was a football player before to join us, Peter, getting on one side a blood sample, on the other side a muscle biopsy, everything on side of the pitch while still wearing his football boots. And from this kind of data, what we can see is that there is a large decrease in muscle glycogen following the game, followed by a recovery in 24 and 48 hours. But this decrease in muscle glycogen and the recovery is not affected by the environmental temperature. So you get the same decrease and the same kinetic of recovery. This is the same for various markers of muscle damage. We are looking here, for example, at plasma myoglobin or serum creatine kinase. And we can see that in both cases, there is an increase of a marker of muscle damage due to the game and a recovery after. But here again, no effect of the temperature. And if there is any difference, it's in favor every time of playing in the heat, a bit easier to recover from a game in the heat. So does that mean that there is absolutely no issue in playing in the heat? Not totally. We have to consider here that we were working every time with players being well trained. And when you work with a general population or recreational player going to play once every weekend without specific training, then you might face other issues. And this is the case, for example, during half participation event, mass participation event. During half marathons that are held at the beginning of the summer, at the end of the winter, when nobody is trained for the hot ambient condition, you can observe some major health issues. However, during the same kind of events that are held in season or in warm and humid country where everybody is trained in this condition, then you do not observe medical issue at all. So it seems that everything for your player to be safe when playing in the heat is about specific preparation in the heat, so about heat acclimation. So can football player heat acclimatize? We know that endurance athlete heat acclimatize with training. Is it the same for football player? So what you see here, for example, is football player who did a very simple test about walking for 30 minutes in a hot ambient condition before and after a week of training in Qatar. And this week of training induced an increase in plasma volume, an increase in sweat rate, allowing a decrease in heart rate and a decrease in temperature. So all of the standard adaptation related to heat acclimation you can get them simply by doing your normal football training in the heat. As simple as that, no need for any specific training. But what is quite interesting is that this correlates quite well as well to the level of performance. So as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a decrease in the distance covered during the game of roughly 6 to 7%. But this is an average. And you can see that some players actually are able to maintain their distance cover in the range of -5 to +5%, despite the temperature. And some others have to decrease to -10 or even -15%. This is the same with physiological adaptation. Some players will show a decrease in hematocrit, meaning a plasma volume expansion. Some others will remain around 0%, so no change in plasma volume. And these two parameters correlate quite well. If your player is able to heat acclimatize, so for example, have a plasma volume increase, he will be able to maintain his activity when doing a tournament in the heat. If he's not able to acclimatize, or if 1 week is not enough for him, then he will have to decrease his activity when playing in the heat. So some of these players may actually need 2 weeks. So if you're traveling with your Olympic team to Rio, some of your players may be able to adapt in a week. Some other players may need 2 weeks in order to adapt to the condition of the next Summer Olympic. So how can we do that? How can we acclimatize? It's pretty easy. As I said before, you just have to train in the heat, ideally in the same condition than the tournament, than the competition. For roughly 60 minutes a day is enough to get the adaptation to the heat. So if you have 2 training, you can maintain 1 training in temperate environment and 1 in the heat. If it's not possible because you do not have the possibility to travel to Rio in advance due to other competition, for example, then use a plan B. It's very easy to simulate heat. Just put some heater in the gym and do an indoor session with some heater. Heat is the easiest thing to simulate. It's quite hard to do cryotherapy. It's very difficult to simulate hypoxia for altitude training, but you just need to have heater to produce heat. So that will always be useful if you do that. The main thing is to increase the core and skin temperature and stimulate the sweating. You want to do that, of course, a few days is better than nothing, but you need 1 week to get most of the adaptation. And as I mentioned before, not all of the players will be able to adapt in a week, so you may want to have 2 weeks in order for most of the players to adapt. And then be aware of the possible change in the rules, with the FIFA allowing an extra break if the temperature reaches 32 degrees, as well as take care of the hydration of your player, and you might also consider some cooling system during the warm-up to avoid some heat-related issue, heatiness with your player. Thank you.